Hey everybody, welcome to the special backers only episode of Boss Fight. Now, you will notice I am not on the Boss Fight set. I am in my YouTube area, and that's because I need a PowerPoint presentation because what I'm going to show you guys is the different endings that could have happened based on the backer voting. As you guys might remember, there were 4 backer questions, but one of them was, will Leanna continue to hate The Sims? That didn't impact the plot. That was put in there in part because episode 1 needed to go the way it did. I couldn't do a binary choice there that impacted the plot. You'll see why by the end of this episode. But everything else, there were 3 remaining choices about what could have happened in the show, and I'm gonna switch over to the PowerPoint now, because the 3 choices were whether Princess Sparkle Muffin broke bad or not. She stayed good. That's what you guys picked. Whether Social Justice Warrior gave up the fight for social justice, the sort of BioWare hardening the character option. As you see, he stayed outraged fighting for social justice, and whether Beelzebub got involved or not. Now, it did not surprise me that Beelzebub got involved. People love Beelzebub. That was not a big surprise. But Princess Sparkle Muffin and Social Justice Warrior maintaining status quo, the fact that people voted for both of them to maintain status quo, that did surprise me. And that was the outcome we got. It was the one option I didn't plan for in advance. In part because it completely maintained status quo. So I was like, there's no way. Silly content creator. Now, did I have some idea of what I wanted to do with it? Yes, but by the end of it, I completely rewrote the ending, in part because originally I had planned a season 2 instead of going right into a video game. But the more I worked on this, the more I realized that there is so much lore and so much content and so much world building in this thing, which is weird but great. But making, an old school RPG will allow me to do a lot of things that I'd be limited in with the, the budgets and the time constraints and the limitations of doing everything on video. So the next outcome we're going to look at was probably not a very likely one because, Beelzebub stays a cat. That's what would have happened if Beelzebub didn't get involved. She'd just stay a cat with Mephisto the whole series, and the ending would be, happy they rescue Beelzebub. Right? Beelzebub, damsel in distress. Not really, but you know what I mean. If in this outcome, if Beelzebub had stayed a cat, the final boss would have been a series of pre-recorded videos made before Zarkazan got the drop on Beelzebub. The final boss reveal would have been Mephisto and Beelzebub in a puppet-like costume, Little Rascal style. I did have a plan to make that happen because Momo is so chill, and all we need is 5 seconds of video of Zelda behaving. And if you see the blooper reel, that's kind of all we get with Zelda. But Zarkazan would have escaped in this because Beelzebub never would have explained what the whole deal was with the Sparkle Gem and her being Princess Sparkle Muffin's nanny and the whole setup. They wouldn't find that out until after Zarkazan escaped. However, all is not well for Zarkazan. As you see in episode 5, the Sparkle Friends would have uncatted Beelzebub. However, they would notice, dun dun dun, Princess Sparkle Pony was missing. You'll remember that Beelzebub sent Princess Sparkle Pony to aid Princess Sparkle Muffin before she got catted. Princess Sparkle Pony and Mephisto would have enacted the Plan B from the episode you guys saw. Princess Sparkle Pony would have eaten Zarkazan's soul. Yes, darker than what happened, definitely. Because Princess Sparkle Pony ate a soul, instead of doing the switcheroo she doesn't get freed, so she returns to hell with Mephisto. That would have been that ending. Still satisfying, somewhat more bittersweet, but, everything's better with Beelzebub, right? Now, this is an outcome you'll see I put a bit more thought into because I thought this one was actually a possibility. This is the one where social justice warrior gives up the fight for social justice. So he turns badass. If Solomon turned his back on being the social justice warrior, he would have become the PUA, the powerful ultimate adventurer. Now, those of you know, PUA usually stands for pickup artist. So little joke there, because, instead of being a happy sidekick, he'd be a badass intent on the power of revenge. So revenge instead of outrage. His sidekick would have been Murray Henchman, Ruckel's son. Fun fact, Ruckel Henchman was originally going to be a guy, Murray Henchman. But I couldn't resist the whole Baba Yaga thing. It's such a game trope, but also it was just too fun, especially with, Grayson as the kid and that whole thing. So that would have been an additional character that would have served as Solomon's sidekick. And the Silk Angels would have served as backup. The Silk Angels from Anne Reardon's game, Angel Protocol. And this is where things would have been very, very different. During the final confrontation with Zarkazan, SJW PUA would have been Plan C. He would have been the one, instead of everybody else going after Zarkazan, he would have gone after Zarkazan, and he would have gotten his revenge. He would have delighted in torturing her the way she abused him back in the day. What happens there is she flees to hell to get away from him, so that whole Mephisto contract still happens, but she does it to get away from Solomon, who's now taking no shit. And then Solomon and Murray head out to avenge others who have been bullied, telling Princess Sparkle Muffin that, and the Sparkle friends, that their paths will cross again. So he becomes, SJW becomes almost like a Ronin type character, which I thought would have been kind of fun. Yeah, that one would have been cool. This, again, the next one, same scenario, except Beelzebub stays a cat. The ending of this one would have been fun to do, but I thought it was very unlikely. Again, the victory is uncatting Beelzebub. Once final boss revealed as fake, Zarkazan escapes again. SJW, now powerful ultimate adventurer, joins forces with Mephisto to track down Zarkazan. SJW ends up killing Zarkazan with the sword she took from him, and SJW PUA becomes Mephisto's thumb errand enforcer instead of Beelzebub. Again, unlikely, but it was kind of a funny thing to sort of, other like fanfic in my head. I guess it's not fanfic, it's my property. But sad that she lost her friend. Princess Sparkle Muffin sings a song for the bosses that she saved about not being able to win every game. So the end song would have been different in this case. And then right at the end, it would have been Solomon shrouded in darkness, hearing the music and quietly saying, "Triggered," revealing that, that guy, that good guy is still there in him. So again, unlikely to have happened because I didn't expect people would want Beelzebub to stay out of things. But it was funny to kind of play with. Now we're getting into the ones where Princess Sparkle Muffin breaks bad. And this was actually something I thought might happen. So you'll notice that these outcomes are more fleshed out in some cases. So if Princess Sparkle Muffin breaks bad, she uses a sparkle to change time, so she becomes the final boss of Nice, and Beelzebub was never turned into a cat. The musical number in episode 2 would have been a homage to Cell Block Tango from Chicago. You know that one? He had it coming. He had it coming. He only had himself to blame. That one. Obviously, very, very different song. And Princess Sparkle Muffin would have adopted more of Anne Reardon's fashion sense. It was an excuse to put Princess Sparkle Muffin in black leather. So it still would have been Anne and Princess Sparkle Muffin singing that song with Social Justice Warrior popping in as more of a Mr. Cellophane. You know, my name, a Mr. Cellophane from Chicago. But yeah, very, very different outcome to episode 2. Sorry, this is being slow. And then in episode 3, instead of it being the kittens and Neapolitan ice cream, Shao Kind would have been defeated in a 2D fighting game style. Really, really cheesy. It would have been deliberately bad effects. Because the Sparkle Gem protects Princess Sparkle Muffin from harm, as she finds out in episode 2. So very different ending. Shao Kind still joins the team, but very different reason how. That's why I went with sort of the Mortal Kombat thing, so it could go both ways, right? In episode 4, when Zarkazan's picking on SJW, Princess Sparkle Muffin wishes, with Dolores Faye there, that Solomon would finally stand up for himself, and Dolores grants the wish. Now, because Solomon stays good, he doesn't go badass in this one. That has an interesting result. What happens is in the finale, while Princess Sparkle Muffin is preparing to have Princess Sparkle Pony eat Zarkazan, yes, she was gonna be like, when Beelzebub let Princess she wasn't gonna try to be her friend here, right? There wouldn't have been like, I don't want to be your friend. So all right, let Princess Sparkle Pony eat her, and that would have been the plan. But SJW and Beelzebub are worried about the turn Princess Sparkle Muffin is taking. She's not acting like herself. She's acting like a strong female character. You see where I'm going with this. So that big, as I called the Charlie Brown's Christmas speech that Princess Sparkle Muffin did at the end of the episode we ended up doing, it would have been Social Justice Warrior doing that big speech, appealing to the good left in Princess Sparkle Muffin. Now, unlike Princess Sparkle Muffin's speech, SJW's appeals would have worked. Princess Sparkle Muffin would have realized that if she goes through with her plan, she'll be no better than Zarkazan. So she lets Zarkazan go on the condition that she leaves SJW alone from now on. So what happened here is SJW standing up for himself allowed him to stop Princess Sparkle Muffin from going totally dark side, right? Now, of course, Zarkazan is totally dark side. So Zarkazan attacks, triggering the finale, the big fight at the end. But instead of Anne doing the sing blasting on her with the re and the high note, Anne teaches Sparkle Muffin the high note Ken instead of Hadoken. So big fireball, boosh, Dragon's Shout style fireball sends Zarkazan into Mephisto's clutches, frees Princess Sparkle Pony. Princess Sparkle Pony would have had a bit of a makeover too to match Princess Sparkle Muffin's black leather thing now. And Princess Sparkle Muffin and Anne Reardon become business partners, making video games that are fun and don't suck. As you can tell, I was looking forward to the possibility of this particular episode. It would have been super fun to do, and we still could have done Friendship is the greatest game of all, because Friendship lets Princess Sparkle Muffin be a badass instead of just bad. She keeps a core of herself. She is still true to who she is. And that's the whole moral of what Beelzebub said. That would have been the issue, is that in going like full, oh, I don't take any shit from anybody, I need no one, I'm strong, raw, woman, feminism, right? Princess Sparkle Muffin isn't staying true to who she is. And Solomon would have brought her back to more herself, just a little more worldly. Not that Princess Sparkle Muffin doesn't end up worldly by the end of the show. But however, now we get in to the dark turn endings. Again, thought this was unlikely, but obviously since this is a show about friendship, if we lose too many components, we start getting bad endings. So if Beelzebub's not there, and Princess Sparkle Muffin breaks bad, there's no one to talk Princess Sparkle Muffin into that you stayed true to who you were. So no one to talk to her about committing a truly evil act. They still uncap Beelzebub. Zarkazan escapes. But in this ending, because Beelzebub isn't there to coordinate everything, the former bosses follow Zarkazan, and Princess Sparklepony eats her. Mephisto watches this approvingly, because Mephisto is a demon, but Mephisto's not really evil, but Mephisto doesn't mind if people who have it coming get theirs. As you can tell, I didn't put a ton of thought into that, because again, it's a Beelzebub out. Unlikely. Now, what happens if both Princess Sparklemuffin and Social Justice Warrior break bad? They both give in to their outrage, so Zarkazan does not stand a chance. This is full on, like, Princess Sparklepony eats her after both Solomon and Sparklemuffin tear her a new one. So Solomon and Sparklemuffin then take over hell together, remaking it into a gamer paradise for their new friends. Yes, I was prepared to, like, do the Lucifer thing. Each former nice boss is shown tormenting some enemy of gamers. Anne Reardon becomes president, and the Silk Angels become her all-female cabinet. So there's still some girl power there, but, you know, the final scene is Beelzebub and Mephisto watching it all burn, with Beelzebub saying, sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. I created this ending because I thought that if backers went with this, they'd want stand up for yourself ending. There's a lot of people in gaming who do actually think that we have to just keep all the, out. And it's still the team banding together to stop bad people, just with a very different idea of what that means. So I was trying to create endings not based on sort of my own. Yes, there were some things I thought right is right and wrong is wrong, but I didn't want it to be, oh, this is the way I want to do it. I wanted to make an ending that would seem satisfying based on the choices that the backers made. So there was going to be real change depending on which outcomes happened. Now, this is the ending that I'm really glad didn't happen. I like it creatively, but it would have been kind of a bummer. But it does. And this is the ending why episode 1 absolutely had to run the way it did with Serenity Sunflower. Because if Princess Sparklemuffin goes bad and SJW goes badass and Beelzebub stays out, this is the episode where all hell literally breaks loose. In this one, everybody would have died in the final battle. It would have been a war of attrition. However, it would have turned out it was all a dream. Princess Sparklemuffin never woke up from Serenity Sunflower's spores. She's now a sleeping beauty, another form of damsel in distress, with Mephisto and Beelzebub curled up on her as cats. So a bit of, oh my God, what? A bit of Dallas, a bit of Fairy Tale, a bit of, Mortal Kombat rewriting time. The two demons used the sparkle-powered dream to locate Zarkazan's whereabouts. So the demons still get their outcome. Demons always win in boss fight. At least these demons do. Beelzebub, you don't want Beelzebub to lose, right? But they use the dream. They use sort of what happens there to locate Zarkazan. And then Princess Sparklepony and Shao Kind find Zarkazan and eat her. It would have been something of an inferred bloody mess. But meanwhile, Glowy Box activates and teleports to free Social Justice Warrior, keeping in mind that if Princess Sparklemuffin never wakes up from the spores, Social Justice Warrior never gets rescued, right? And so Glowy Box ends up freeing Social Justice Warrior. The final line is SJW saying, wait, what do you mean the kid is secretly a prince? So even though this ending's kind of a downer, there is some hope that Princess Sparklemuffin is eventually going to be okay. She just never breaks the cycle of being a damsel in distress. But her journey still allowed Mephisto and Beelzebub to to stop Zarkazan. Bad guy was never going to win. Heroes are always going to win, as you can see, just in very, very, very different ways. And I'm happy with the version that came out. I'm glad that people like the characters enough to keep everything exactly the way it is. But I think you can tell there were certain endings. There's like Princess Sparkle Muffin Breaking Bad would have been kind of fun. Solomon becoming kind of a badass would have been fun to play. That one probably would have made me sadder. Princess Sparkle Muffin would have been easier to, it basically would have been Betty White from the Mary Tyler Moore Show instead of Betty White as Rose Nyland on the Golden Girls. But the clothes would have been fun. And the styling would have been fun. And her and Anne Reardon being like this dynamic duo of Roxy and Blanky. See there's the shingles. I can't remember the other character from Chicago. Yeah, it's that's gonna bother me. I'm gonna look it up once this is over because could see the character's design, but you can see with Anne Reardon and Princess Sparkle Muffin where the Chicago thing would have come from, right? That's basically the different outcomes. And it was all up to the audience, up to the backers. A big part of this was actually creating like a choose your own adventure style story that was communally voted on. And so I wanted you guys to see just how different the outcomes would have been so you can get some sense of what we're planning with the boss fight game and why I always the writing team knew the writing backer tier. They knew when they first started doing the characters, I asked everybody to submit a character sheet. Initially the plan was to make it a pen and paper RPG. But we have the opportunity to do like an old school RPG, and I hope based on these outcomes you can see how much player choice we're intending and what my philosophy of player choice kind of is. The idea that no matter what somebody chooses, they will still get a sense that they won, that the party wins, but how the party wins is very different depending on the choices that are made. So, I'm a gamer. I'm an old school gamer. I remember when RPGs were not railroaded because they weren't these, cinematic cutscene, everything has to be top-notch graphics where you see every bit of smoke and ember falling from. No, real simple graphics, but pile on a ton of story. And give people a lot of choice and a lot of replay value. I'm sure you can see that people, if you actually had the opportunity to experience all these different endings, then, people would want to play the game more than once, especially since, submissions, like area missions, will have different outcomes as well. And this is why we're keeping the graphics simple and not going crazy in that regard, because we really want to focus on storytelling and player choice and balancing a combat system that the closest I can kind of compare it to is the South Park games, where combat isn't, combat is for a laugh. Combat is part of the RPG experience. It's not like really hard or anything like that. But I hope you enjoyed this trip down alternative endings. I appreciate your support and your backing, and your friendship is the greatest game of all. This project was crazy. It was intended to be crazy. I'm sure you can imagine that it would have been a lot easier had there not been multiple COVID lockdowns. The only way I managed to even get those kids in the show, we shot them both in the same summer. Even though, episode 4 was months away, because I suspected there was going to be another lockdown, and there was. And that was part of the stop and start and delays and the stress was every time I got into a rhythm of how to produce the show, I had to break the rhythm to, okay, there's no lockdown now. We can have, set number of people in this space at a time. So we got to do it now because in a month we won't be able to do this again. And it was just not losing footage and keeping track of continuity and, getting things like props. Beelzebub's larger trident, her larger pitchfork broke during the filming. And I just taped it over. I couldn't even replace that. I'm going to go out after Halloween and see if I can find another one. Because, dun dun dun, the reason that Beelzebub's pitchforks are different sizes is one of the things that's going to be revealed in the boss fight game. The boss fight game will have Beelzebub's origin story. So you'll notice Beelzebub's origin story was not part of boss fight. And it was not part of what the writers could create. Beelzebub's backstory has been around since shortly after I created the character and realized it wasn't going to be a one-off. It's going to say a lot about why Beelzebub is the way she is. And I'm quite happy about it. And I'm quite happy about what it says and all that stuff. So, onward. We are starting to plan the crowdfunding campaign now. The current plan is to launch after Far Cry 6 comes out, probably near the end of October, because we've looked at the release schedule for Christmas, and the only other thing we think our demographic, the people who like boss fight content, it would be competing for their attention in dollars would be basically Shin Megami, the Shin Megami Tensei game. And that comes out in November. So I figure if we can get a good solid 2-week window in October between Far Cry 6 and that game, people will be able to plunk down their like $25 and upward for a character in the game. And we think it's a good time to do it because it's a pre-Christmas gift thing. For people who are difficult to buy for, we are going to have an option where we will be able to send you a card explaining as a Christmas gift what they're getting. But more on that when the crowdfunding campaign comes out. Okay. Thanks again, everybody. This has been a hell of a journey. We're finally at the end, and now I'm feeling emotional and feel like singing, but I won't. I'll save that for the games. Okay, everybody. Thanks so much. Bye. Don't hate the player. Just play games.